Hello everyone, I'm Ari Lax, and this week I will be recording some modern events with allies. So, over the past few months, we've seen a few different collected company linear tribal decks pop up in modern. Uh, Basically, all the same game plan of you just put a bunch of stuff on board and you just snowball into some giant aggro mess. The first one was the Elves deck that Magnus Lanto used to win the MOCS, and that won Grand Prix Charlotte. Then after that, around Magic Origins, there was this Goblins deck that was pitched around a bit. I don't think that one went anywhere, but it was Goblin Pile Driver, Goblin Rabble Master, Goblin Chieftain. I don't really know the full suite of goblins in the deck, but those were the big core of what it did. There was also this aggressive Blood Moon deck too, which was pretty cool. And then last weekend at the Star City Open in Cincinnati, we saw Slivers top eight. Again, very similar shell, just a bunch of creatures and some Aether Vials and some five color spells. Um, and I figured I kind of wanted to go somewhere with that, but get a little bit of Zendikar hype in there too. So, allies. So, the draw to allies over any of the other collected company decks is that your beatdown plan starts on one. So, Elves is kind of like a if you stick your Archdruid, if you stick your Azuri, you go big and you win. Great. Um, but the rest of these decks are really just kind of like stacking huge threats. And very few of them have the lords to start on one. Whereas allies, all your stuff is this reverse lord thing. So you actually have 8 creatures that boot up on one to start growing. Champion of the Parish is not an ally, but human, 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 technically a human, also a human. So every creature in the deck is going to trigger Champion of the Parish. So as a one drop, works basically the same as a Hada Freeblade. Hada is admittedly starting as a 1-2 instead of a 1-1, but whatever. Moving up the curve, you're going to see Oran Reef Survivals and Kazandu Blade Master, these two creatures that start, as 2 power counter adding allies on 2. Worth noting is this mana cost right here, this white on Kazandu Blade Master. That's going to influence the mana base quite a bit. Akum Battlesinger. This is your kind of true lord where it just kind of sprays out additional damage on every ally. So, ideally, it's every ally you control gets a counter whenever you play a creature. But if you do this, it's going to get that counter and the +1/+0. Uh, Honestly, I had to reread this card like 3 times. I forgot exactly what it did. My Zendikar Worldwide draft skills are a little rusty, and I hope everyone else's are as well because that was way too long ago, and these cards are crazy. So the other draw to this deck is Kabira Evangel, which basically reads 3 mana, your allies are unblockable whenever you play an ally. Choose a color, their stuff, falter right through their stuff. Great, excellent. Um, you see some of that in Merfolk with like Lord of Atlantis, but specifically in this deck, it does a little. It's a little bit more. Lord of Atlantis requires you to actually make one of their lands an island with Spreading Caesar for them to have islands. This card just hits them regardless. And also with Collected Company and Aether Vial can set up protection for your other creatures, which is pretty awesome. Mirror Entity is an ally. It's a human. And worth noting, your allies +1/+1 counters stack on top of Mirror Entity, so you don't like a Mirror Entity for even 2 or something like that is basically +2/+2 your entire team. Pretty good. And then Absent Falconer. So it turns out that this is counters, counters, counters. This is basically 3 mana, all your creatures are flying. There's only one because let's get real. Playing this card is pretty embarrassing, but it's pretty cool to hit. You got Path to Exile as your interactive spell. You only really have room for one-ish of this effect. Collecting Company, because obviously you need this to hit the maximum density of whatever your creature type is. And then a ton of mana. And by a ton, I mean like for these archetypes. So the thing that sets this and Slivers apart is that you're playing Aether Vials on top of your lands. Which means you are going to have some mana-heavy hands, which means you are going to lean a little harder on Collecting Company to go really wide. But Mutavault's a bit of a payoff. Um, Card's good. There's not too much to say about Mutavault. Uh, it's kind of weird here because there aren't a ton of allies that are going to pump it. I mean, Battle Singer and Kabira Evangel do affect Mutavault, but these 16 allies, not going to do anything with it. So for the most part, it's just a 2/2, but take what you can get. Cavern of Souls, obviously, your creatures are all humans. You name humans, not allies. Uh, but looking at the mana, the one interesting thing I would like to point out, I think there could probably be some Horizon Canopies in this list to kind of filter through and make the mana a little more flexible. I think you can get away with some of that. I might actually just make that change right now-ish, but I'll think about it. Um, but the thing worth noting is there's no Stomping Ground. There's only one land that doesn't make this double white for Blade Master. So, as you can see, most of the time you're fetching heavy green, heavy red, uh, or not heavy green, sorry, light green, light red, strike that, reverse it. Um, because really, if you just look at the spells, there's 8 green spells, 4 red spells, and all white spells. Again, this mana base is pretty good for your 3-color deck. And unlike Slivers, you can actually play basic lands. Slivers is kind of locked into this whole have a million different colors at all times nonsense, die to Blood Moon. Which happens, I guess. Looking at the sideboard, new Clerics gains life. It should be pretty obvious that that's against Burn, other aggressive decks. Pretty straightforward card. Aethersworn Canonist is a random combo hate card. It's one of those things in Modern where like you sometimes just build your deck and you have like a slot to beat combo decks, and it's kind of just like, oh, this is a creature. Also worth noting, human. Gadok T. Kithkin. Rest in peace, another standard combo hate card. Your standard suite of modern, generically powerful answers that you kind of board in the right matchups. Rending Volley for, Twin, Merfolk. Ancient Grudge for Affinity. Wear Tear covers Affinity and any deck with random enchantments that you have to beat. Dromoka's Command, again, enchantments. Also covers decks that are trying to burn away your creatures at times. Ideally, you'd want to double up and get like an enchantment or their creature out of it, because just countering a lightning bolt and adding a counter isn't actually that exciting with this card. Celestial Purge as a way to, exile target red or black permanent. This card is good against red or black permanents. Pretty straightforward. Again, this doubles up as a little bit of twin hate because it can exile like Grim Lavamancer and Splinter Twin. Finally, we have Return to the Ranks. So, one of the issues with a deck like this is that against a deck like Jund, you need some kind of way to, they're just going to kill, have a Tarmogoyf, you'll have like a 2/2, great, all your stuff's dead. You need a way to break out of that parity and kind of regain card advantage. Proclamation of Rebirth has historically been a card that kind of does that, but in this deck, this card just does more. You have cards that are not 1-drops, that are 2-drops, shockingly. You have 20 targets for this card, and you need something, even if it's a little more expensive, a little harder to cast. It's basically, you can probably convoke it once, you'll return like 3 things with it against Jund or whatever, which probably puts it in the realm of like being a 4-drop instead of a 3-drop for Proclamation, but it's a pretty similar effect, pretty similar power level. And worth noting that if you return multiple allies at once, you get a million triggers, which honestly, given the Magic Online interface, might be one of my concerns with the deck. But anyways, this looks to be either really fun or really miserable, depending on how winnable the matches are, but the daily event results do suggest that it will be very much towards the fun side. I look forward to seeing what happens.